the weekend, I passed my FAA Part 107 exam. So I wanted to make a quick video talking about my experience with the exam, how it went for me, what I did to prepare, just to give anyone some insight if they're looking to take the exam. For those who don't know what the Part 107 exam is, it is an exam through the Federal Aviation Administration for drone operators. It allows you to fly a drone for commercial purposes, which is essentially anything to make money or benefit from financially. It's not needed for anything recreationally, but for using it for your business, even in exchange for goods, stuff like that, it is required. Here are my key takeaways if you're looking to take the exam. 1, know the exam structure. The exam is 65 questions and you have a 2-hour time limit. Personally, I thought that was plenty of time, but I've always been a fast test taker, and there's some tricky questions. Some topics are quicker than others. There are also some questions that I went back to, and there's some that are a little bit tricky because there's kind of, multiple right answers, but one might be more right than the other. But since you only need to get a 70% to pass the test, I wouldn't stress too much if you come across one of these questions. 2, know the different topics and categories for the questions. They're broken up into 6 different categories. My exam had a lot more of the operations-based questions as opposed to the weather or, map reading type questions. I didn't have a lot on the charts and weather type of questions, where I actually spent a lot of time studying those 2 subjects because those are the least kind of, common sense type of questions and are more memorization based type of questions. 3, watch YouTube videos. The 2 that I would recommend would be the Tony Northrup and then the Gary Glenn videos. Those 2 videos are awesome. Basically what I did was to start studying, I would watch those 2 videos front to back, and then kind of go revisit the topics that I wanted to focus on for the day or I knew were my weak spots. 4, take lots of practice tests. There's a lot of different resources out there online for various practice tests. One of the things that I used was this app right here on my iPhone. It was kind of nice. It basically has different modules for each of the 6 categories, and you can kind of go in and do practice tests on each of those. Then it has a daily challenge. If you get questions wrong, you can get 5 AI explanations of, why you were wrong or explaining the right answer, which I thought was actually pretty insightful. And then as far as practice tests goes, there's a lot of other, web-based tests that you can go through. My personal favorite was this one. It allows you to filter by the category and also change the number of questions, and it'll scale the time. So you can actually take a full 60-question exam if you want to really go through that long. I would usually just do 10 at a time, do a couple a day, that sort of thing. Number 5, download and look through the FAA sectional chart legend. It will be given to you on the exam, but being familiar with this information that's on there will be very helpful while you're studying and while you're taking the tests, if you're able to use it as well. Some questions you can just answer by just looking on the legend. And lastly, number 6, I would recommend just using good logic and test taking skills. Relatively speaking, I thought it was an easy exam. I didn't study too hard for it. I know you can pay for stuff out there, but I think using practice tests and the YouTube videos, you can get where you need to be. Just don't schedule it until you feel comfortable or give yourself a few weeks. There's only 3 answers per question, and sometimes one of them's obviously wrong, or you're able to eliminate one through logic. That gives you a 50% chance if you're able to do that on a lot of the questions. And then the other thing I was able to do was you might get some clues from other questions to help answer other ones. Where I took the test, it had a feature where I could bookmark and then I could go back if there was questions that I thought were particularly tricky. But then I remember reading through and then, I had a question pop up and the question kind of gave a clue to another question I had earlier that helped me go back and double check that one. And so doing things like that, which I think are good test taking skills, depends on how much you've taken tests, in your lifetime in education. Relatively speaking, like I said, it's a relatively easy exam. And I think with a few weeks and with all of the online resources that are out there, you don't have to spend any money to really be successful. I think, some of those people who do put good effort, it's nothing wrong with, especially if you want to support some of those guys who have done some great work for test prep, but I don't think it's necessary. So I just wanted to share that insight with you guys. If you have any questions about the exam itself or anything, let me know. I'm kind of starting this series to just try to spread information as best as I can as I'm going through and learning everything, because it's all still pretty new to me. So hoping that somebody else out there can learn, and hopefully this gives you a little confidence to schedule the exam, or just kind of jump into the studying process.